Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Walk It Off. I am Paul Jarrett. And it seems like my thumbnail had some people scratching their heads. We're going to discuss tonight for a big portion what I told John Needs I was calling the autopsy of this 2026 LSU baseball season. The disappointing LSU baseball season for many, but as I went back and looked, not really disappointed, and not as disappointed as I was. Now, I'm going to explain to you why here later on this evening. I understand that doesn't make a lot of sense to you guys. We didn't make the postseason. We didn't compete for a regional or go to Omaha. We didn't even have a big, competition in the SEC tournament. I'm going to lay out my case later on why I think this season wasn't as disappointing as I initially thought. And also talk about how you can be excited for 2027 due to the fact that this season wasn't a disappointment to me. I want to start off tonight's show a little differently than normal. I want to honestly just say thank you to all of you. We are coming up on 30 shows. So I think this is show 28. Time has flown by. I don't know how we've gotten to 28 shows, and we're not done. This isn't me saying goodbye, signing off. But I want to say thank you to everyone who has followed me, subscribed to the YouTube channel, supported me, participated in Pick to Click, which, by the way, Pick to Click prizes are out. Should be arriving soon. I'm a one-man army. Give me a little grace. If you participated in Pick to Click, if you made comments on posts, if you shared shorts or reels or this podcast and gotten other people to subscribe, I want to say thank you. Back in February or March or whenever I started doing this, I never expected it to really be anything. I never expected really anyone to tune in or want to listen to what I have to say about anything. But the community, we use that word community a lot. We've used guys like me, David Billiot, Zach Nunez, AP, Babin, Tiger Joker. A lot of us have used that term community a lot. And we really are building I believe, a separate community within the LSU podcast or commentating or talking head, whatever you want to call it, realm of LSU. A lot of people don't realize LSU has more sports podcasts than any other university in the country. There are more people who talk about LSU than any other school has in the country. This market is flooded with people. This market has the most negative people to the most sourced up people to people with no sources to any realm of the pie you want to talk about. LSU has the largest one in the country, which isn't, it's hard to get into. It's hard to get any kind of following. So even if I have one person on the stream, one person liking a post or whatever, I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, want to say thank you for your support and your following. And like I said on the first show, this is not just my show. This is our show. I want to hear your feedback. I'm thinking about changing a couple things. I'm thinking about doing some new things. I'm getting ready for Pick to Click coming up during the football season. As you can probably zoom in and tell on this side, that's one of the prizes right there. If you can go zoom in and look at something on it. I'm also, during this time, a lot is going on in my life. As you know, I'm married with children, I have a career, I have a job, and things are in flux. My marriage is great. My children are amazing. That's not the problem. Outside sources other than my family and my children, things are possibly or most definitely changing here very soon in the near future. And having the ability to come on here twice a week, if not more, we may go more, I don't know. And spending time with you guys is a nice break from all that. It helps me recenter my thoughts. It helps me kind of break away from, you know, everyday life's problems. Gives me a chance to relax. I don't know if a lot of people notice. I know David and them knows. I'm a high stress person. I take everything very seriously. I care a lot about words people say. I care a lot about a lot of things. I probably need to let go and just let God. But that's just how I am. And I'll work on it, but it's okay. But at the end of the day, thank you so very incredibly much. The people I've met, the people I've gotten to know, the people have gotten to know me. It really is sobering. And it's funny. I think the community we're building more or less with all of our shows is really becoming the kind of side of the market that's saying, hey, the world isn't falling. And we're trying to build a positive community out of it. Now we all know, what bleeds leads, and but we can try. We're gonna do it. So I want to thank you all so very incredibly much for coming and spending your time with me. Let's get to the comments real quick. Say hi to people who are in here. Robbie, what's up, fellas? The Braves are putting it on the Red Sox right now. So I like to hear. They won last night, didn't they? I believe they won last night. Kaylee Joe, hey, sweetheart. Kaylee Joe also says, you love my uncle, my aunt, and my cousin. So we love you too, sweetie. Babbitt on the Bayou, what's up, my man? Sorry I couldn't tune into the show, but I was trying to get prepared for this. I had a couple phone calls I had to make. I'm sorry. I will go back and watch it, though. I'm sure it was a great episode. Did you upset anybody in the comments? I know you were talking about having that possibility tonight. I want to know if you did or not. Let me know. So we have a lot to cover tonight when it comes to the 2026 baseball season. Let's get to a break. Let's pay some bills. When we get back, we're going to dive right into my thoughts on this LSU baseball season. Stay with us.
John 16:33, Jesus says, I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I've overcome the world. Like that truth that Jesus won is so powerful, so significant in our lives if we fully trust and fully surrender to that promise. Like no matter what we're going to face, no matter what stress, no matter what challenges, no matter what anxiety, like Jesus promises peace, and he reminds us that all of the sin, the fear, the doubt, the shame, like he overcame it all. He paid the price for your sin and mine when he went to that cross. He died a death that we deserve. He went into the grave. He didn't stay there. 3 days later, he rose from the grave, and the promise is true that he's coming back someday. So the power and the significance of that verse is now in a two-word phrase that's on a t-shirt, on a hat, on a hoodie, and simply said, Jesus won.
Even in the valley of the shadow of death, I can take rest, cause the living God is living in my chest. Every day I wake up feeling blessed, and even if I don't, I see it as a test.
Join me and your favorite players by expressing your faith and assisting local ministries. Use code WalkItOffTalk for 20% off your orders at JesusOneApparel.com. 15% of your purchase will support local ministries like the LSU FCA. That is code WalkItOffTalk for 20% off. Jesus won. In South Louisiana, there's nothing we love more than God, family, sports, and food. For your next get-together, make sure you contact Mie Sourdough Bakery. Whether you're gathering with friends and family for the big game or surrounding yourself with loved ones for a Sunday dinner, let Mie Sourdough Bakery provide what you need to make it that much more special. Mie Sourdough Bakery is a small batch, all organic bakery right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go take a look at what's being mixed up in the kitchen next, as well as place your orders on Instagram at Mie Sourdough Bakery. Don't forget to pick up your regular sourdough loaves, your jalapeno cheddar loaves, cookies for those late night snacks, and cinnamon rolls for those early morning cravings. Mie Sourdough Bakery, where the first ingredient in anything made is love. Mie Sourdough Bakery. How we doing, guys? Welcome back. Welcome back. Speaking of Jesus One, I don't know if you follow their social media accounts, whether on X or on Instagram. They are at Jesus One Apparel. I have it in all my bios. Go over there, give them a follow, check it out. Today, they launched something. The Jesus One polos. Now, I'm excited about this because I've been saying, hey, because I wear, like, not this one, but the short sleeve hoodies to church, and I wear them around all the time. They're just comfortable and they breathe really well. I'm excited they came out with these polos. Remember, the code Walk It Off Talk gets you 20% off, even on this. How I know? I made an order about an hour ago. So go get your polos. They got a black polo, like a creamish white color polo. They have a couple new t-shirts. They also partnered with a company called Built. If you ever heard of the company, the apparel company Built, BYLT. So you know it's going to be great quality, great feel, great fit. Make sure you go check them out and get you one. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Now, let's get to our main topic of the day. The 2026 LSU baseball season. Earlier, I said how I can't remember exact words I used on the post, but I said why I'm not disappointed in the 2026 season. During this season, I was on camera a lot. This is recorded. This is on either this stream. I believe I said on this stream. I know I said it on the show I did with Justin Babin with Babin the Bayou. I know I've said it with David Billiot and Zach Nunez before. And it was kind of something I didn't think about in the moment. It was more or less a reaction I had in the beginning of the season because I'm not going to lie to you, ever since the loss to Auburn in the SEC tournament, which I think they played a really good game, and I thought they hung around well with a team who I believe has a great bid to winning the College World Series this year, and your coach, the best coach in the country, believes they will win the College World Series as well. So after they hung around with them and they kind of honestly beat themselves again, I was thinking, you had this ability, you had this talent, you had the LSU-ness to you to perform better than you did. What happened? So I went back and I started looking at every game, performances, individual player stats per game, because y'all know I've said it before, I'm not a big stat line guy. I'm like, if you look at Jake Brown, his stats for the year, they're good, but you wouldn't think about reading that he had such a crazy beginning to the year, hitting over 530 for the first 8 games or something close to that. But that's what kept sticking in my head, the first 8 games. If you watched the show with me and John Eads on Monday, again, I want to say thank you to John Eads. He is a scholar and a gentleman. We are very lucky to have him here in Baton Rouge around our beloved programs. But you heard me tell him, we mushed UCF there in the tournament. And and there's other teams you played through the year, ULL, they mushed you. Milwaukee, tournament team, you swept. Northeastern, I believe they made the tournament. Can't remember off the top of my head. Let me check. Yep, tournament team. You played these teams in the beginning of the year, and I was like, okay, I kept going to the 8-0. What happened after that? What was the schism that caused this season to kind of go off track? And I even looked at debunking some of my own thoughts as far as like with Case and Evans and William Schmidt and different guys producing on the team that I thought, here and there, So I wanted to make sure I wasn't blinded by my own emotions or my own thoughts or my own knowledge. And I was proving that the statement I made saying that this LSU baseball team for 2026 after 8 games is a mirage of a good team was correct. the way I said it on Babin's show for sure was, no, this team, it's a mirage of a good team. They look like a good team, but I need a little more proof. The only thing I had wrong was when I said they look like a good team. Now I will rephrase that by saying this LSU baseball team is a mirage of a good team. It looks like there is a good team in there. There could be a good team there. It just didn't show up. It would show up game by game, series by series, here and there, but it wouldn't be consistently there. And while I was trying to figure out how I was going to convey this message to you guys in the easiest way possible, in the most clear way possible, I was trying to figure out how to do that. And I just, those 8 games just kept coming in my head. And I remember talking to David Billiot, and I remember saying, because we were talking about how great this team was, right? LSU should be the number 1 ranked team in the country, not UCLA. They should be this. They should be that, you know? Especially after the weekend in Jacksonville. But I remember talking to David and saying, man, I don't know if this team's as good as those runs scored means. I don't know if this team's as good as the margin of victory. I don't know if this team is as good as it appears. Because I kept thinking about innings. I kept thinking about the 8th inning against Milwaukee, the 8th inning against Indiana, and things of that nature. And it kept bothering me. So I went back and looked at some stats, and I believe the stats I brought up from the first 8 games will kind of tell you the story of the whole season. Why do I say that? I'm going to use UCF as an example. A tournament team. Not a great team, a good team. A good team, not a great team. I think we had the moments where LSU was playing somebody on their worst nights or their worst days. They were still trying to get their gel together. They were still trying to figure out what kind of team they had, who were going to be key contributors, who were going to be their best arms out of pens. I think they were trying to figure that out. And LSU got them at the right time. Unfortunately for us, I think that's the truth. Looking back now, this team is not a postseason team from the beginning. And before I start digging into this, I want to preface this by saying, I know this is baseball. The things I'm going to talk about are things that lead to wins in baseball. You need to do the right things to earn these things to win in baseball. I get it. But it's a pattern in which it kind of plays out the rest of the season if you look at it correctly. Now I'm going to start off first game of the year, first series of the year, opening day against Milwaukee, who we all saw won their conference tournament to enter the NCAA baseball tournament for the postseason, I believe, on a walk-off. And I remember we all talked about Milwaukee after this series saying, yeah, they're a good team. They just didn't have the talent. It's early in the season. It's cold up there. You're right. But similar to looking at the 22 team, Jay's first year, and seeing they made a regional and thinking, oh, that team that was terrible. Or the way we talked about 24 all year, talking about how that was the worst season under Jay. Then look what we got with 26. In game 1 of the Milwaukee series, you won. And if I'm not mistaken, you walked them off in the bottom of the 8th. Because I remember leaving. I was talking to La Cobra down at their baseline right before I went down and sat by him right before the game ended. But a lot of you don't remember, similar how we just let things go, was that game was 5-4 Milwaukee till the seventh inning. Milwaukee held the lead on you through the seventh inning of that game. How did you get the lead back? Well, in the seventh, you had 2 unearned runs off of being advanced on a wild pitch and reaching on an error. And then you had another error in the field, another hit by pitch. Wild pitch. You had some hits in there. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. They had some base hits. And I'm not saying the offense is the reason why this team struggled this year. I'm also not saying starting pitching is the reason why this team struggled this year. It's a mixture of both. And we're going to get into the more details on that after we get over this kind of rundown. You got the lead back in the seventh. And the eighth thing is when you kind of blew up and walked them off. I think you scored 5 in this inning. Eighth inning. Walk, wild pitch, hit by pitch, wild pitch. 3 errors, 6 walks, a balk, 3 hit by pitches. In that inning alone, you had 2 walks and 3 wild pitches. That's how you scored 5. Now, yes, when teams give it to you, you got to take it. And you got to go with it. But in the beginning of the year, I saw a pattern when I looked at these stats showing that, yeah, LSU took advantage of the mistakes, but they were also given the mistakes frequently, especially in late innings. It's going to be a pattern here. So you'd win that game on a walk-off. Game 2, you'd win 5-3. Here's the difference of that game. Here's the difference. Milwaukee had 1 error, 2 walks, and the boy only struck out 3 times. 1 error and 2 walks. When teams put it over the plate, you couldn't do anything with it in most games. It took a little more comfortability for this team to get in rhythm, get in step, to get themselves going to put up runs. Or it was day by day. Game 2 of the year, you think guys will be ready? Milwaukee held you to 5 runs, and that was it. An error, 2 walks, and 3 Ks. When teams didn't beat themselves, they stayed with you in games. That was the difference in this year. We're going to keep seeing it. Game 3. We all remember Game 3 of that series. It was 21-7. It was the highest run count of the year, 21-7. Milwaukee in that game committed 3 errors. They walked 7, hit 3, only had 6 Ks. They beat themselves. Hit 3 people, walked 7. That's 10 free base runners, 3 errors. Now you took advantage of it. He had 17 hits. I'm not taking that away from the offense. 17 hits in that game, scoring 21 runs. Yeah. You beat them into submission. I get it. But I want to start painting this picture for you. I want you to start seeing how this team in the beginning of the year weren't just putting their foot on people and mushing them. Kent State, 10-7. Another close game. Close game. I believe Jaden New started in this game. I was at this game. Kent State committed an error. They walked 6. And they hit 1. Now they have 5 Ks. They pitched it decently. And this was a game that was always out of reach, but it was always a game you're going to win, but it never felt out of reach for Kent State. Now, we all know Kent State's a good team. They didn't make the postseason. This is a down year for Kent State. Next game, Nichols, 12-1. Anybody want to hear the pattern? 10 walks, 2 errors. They put 10 on base. Towards the end of the year, what did everybody gripe about? Walks. You put in runners on base, they're going to score. And it's true. But this is where I want you to see the pattern. That's all I'm asking. Then you go to Jacksonville. And you played Indiana, which is a tournament team. I remember this game very, very, very clearly. A lot of us don't remember until the top of the 8th, Indiana was winning 5-4. Indiana was winning 5-4. What happened in the top of the 8th? Or the bottom of the 8th. I apologize. Walk. 4 walks. And you scored 9 runs. Like I said, you had base hits. But you keep putting people on base and you keep committing errors. For the whole game, Indiana had 2 errors, 14 walks. They hit 1. They only had 5 Ks. They beat themselves to a point. 14 walks in a game and you score 14 runs. I didn't even think to go. I thought about it. I didn't want to put the left on base stat because I truly just hate that stat in general, really. If you were losing all these games 3-1 and you left 17 on base, it would matter. It doesn't matter here. Notre Dame. This is probably, I was looking at all the stats. This is probably the second best game you played all year. The next 2 games are your top 2 games you played this year. And I'm putting that over the 15K game with Oklahoma for Kaysen. I'm putting that over the win against Oklahoma and Hoover. I'm putting that over a lot of other games just because this week these were the only 2 games where you kind of dominated. They didn't truly beat themselves. I remember listening to that Notre Dame coach after the game saying they just put pressure on you. That was this year's team's method of winning this year. They had to put pressure on you. They just stopped putting pressure on people. Look at the Tennessee game on Easter. What was the difference in that game? Putting pressure on people. Now, Cade Aaron Beatty hitting 4 home runs helps a lot, but they weren't all solos. You had to put pressure on guys. You had to get walked. Notre Dame walked 8. They hit 1, but they still struck out 8 as a staff. Let me see this real quick. I just saw Stanley. What's up, Stan? I feel like all walks aren't created equal, but I get what you're saying. Not all walks are created equal. You're right. And Stan brings up a good point. Not all walks are created equal. But when you look back at a season, you're seeing teams, walks are indicative of a team beating themselves. That's the way I see it. And the vast majority of our walks in the season came from the bullpen. But we're going to get into that later. Thank you for being here with me, Stan, tonight. By the way, Alex, what's up, sweetheart? Tiger Talk. Notre Dame coach said they don't swing at anything. That game, they didn't have to. But he was right. They put pressure on you. And that philosophy kind of bit them later on when you get into the SEC play. Against an early season game, like when a team against like Notre Dame, who didn't make the tournament, who plays in a cold weather climate, who hasn't had a lot of games under their belt, hasn't had a lot of practice under their belt, you're able to put that pressure on them. In the SEC, when you sit there and hold the bat on your shoulder, which I'm not going to get into that part, when you hold the bat on your shoulder, you handcuff yourself. You handcuff yourself. And that's kind of where I saw the offense fail. And it's not totally on the lineup. I'll just say that. UCF. I'm going to, Stanley, I just read your comment. Stan, this what I'm going to say this about Stan. Stan's a baseball guy. I like Stan. That's my dude. Robbie's a baseball guy. Stan's a baseball guy. Babin's I love baseball guys because they get it. They get it up here. They're good. Football guys, you know, I love me some football, but man, I can't tell you what a 3-tech does at Burger King ordering In-N-Out against a cover 2 in Miami in December. I can't tell you that. All right, where was I at? UCF. This was probably the best game you played all year. UCF really didn't beat themselves. They did have one error. They did walk 6. They did hit 3. But again, like Stanley was just saying, you just left the bat on your shoulder. And UCF's not a cold weather climate team. It was just an early season team, and they had a good record coming into the season. Weren't they top 10 Stan, if I'm not mistaken, top 10 or top 15. Look, that's the reason why I didn't put a whole lot of notes. This is probably the best game you played all season. It was against UCF. And we talked about it early in the season. It may have been a bad blood thing when it came to UCF and LSU due to sharing locker rooms and sharing and, spaces during the tournament and stuff maybe going missing from LSU players. We're not going to get into that. Could have been, that fueled it. That shouldn't have to fuel it. It can help, but it shouldn't have to fuel it. Now, as me and Eads talked about, and he kind of brought up the Sacramento State series, I kind of referred back to the Dartmouth Northeastern weekend from when the wheels started coming off the track. You're 8-0. You're going in against Dartmouth and Northeastern. Northeastern we know is we talked about it all that week. Northeastern's a good team. They made the tournament. Is it you played so many games in such a short period of time? Probably so. You come back from Jacksonville. You have a loss to McNeese on the midweek on a Wednesday. You have a loss to McNeese. We didn't think much about it. You just come out of a sweep for a tournament in Jacksonville, road trip, first road trip of the year, fly back. It's McNeese. That's our Northwestern game for the year, we thought. This is the Northwestern game. McNeese beat us. Dartmouth. Now, first game against Dartmouth, you win 5-2. Dartmouth was leading that game 2-1 to the bottom of the sixth. You see how final scores can fool you? The majority of the game, Dartmouth controlled it. Now, in the bottom of the seventh, you would reach on an error. You'd have a wild pitch. You'd ground out to second. You'd have a walk. You'd fly out. You'd have a 5 unassisted. You'd ground out to third. That was Pearson. A walk. You'd fly out to the shortstop. Dartmouth would commit 2 errors, 7 walks, have 3 wild pitches, hit 3 batters, so only have 5 Ks in the night. You won 5-2. And in the bottom of the seventh, you reached on an error, had a wild pitch, a walk, a ground out, which did score a run, unearned, a walk, and a fly out. It's one of those things. Did you beat them or did they beat themselves? Northeastern, game 1, 3-1 win. You see the pattern here. If a team is not beating themselves, you can still beat them because, yes, I'm not saying that these teams are more talented or truly better than LSU. They weren't. We have more talent. We have better players. We have the best coach in the country. I'm saying all that. Northeastern didn't beat themselves. They had 6 walks, 2 wild pitches, a hit by pitch, 6 Ks, and they had 1 error in the game. And I believe 2 of your runs during this game are unearned. 6 walks and you scored 3. 7 on base because of the hit by pitch. Dartmouth game 2. You shut them out. 3-0. You had an unearned run in the 4th and an unearned run in the 8th. 4th and the 8th, you had unearned runs. That's 2 of your runs. 1-0. Dartmouth had 1 walk, 1 wild pitch, 1 hit by pitch, and they struck you out 8 times. I hate to beat this horse, man. I don't want to keep beating it, but it's just something I feel like I have to do. Dartmouth 3-0. And again, I'm not going to miss the fact that you've played so many games in a row. I get it. This was 8 games in 14 days. 9 games in 3, 4, 8 games. 8 days, something like that. 8 or 10 days, whatever. Should Jay Johnson schedule that way? Even he has said no. Even Jay has said no. He made a mistake there. but you win. You're now what? 10 and 0? 11 and 0? All right. No. You're 11 and 1. Apologize. 11 and 1. Because you lost McNeese. Second game of Northeastern, you got blanked. We didn't get blanked. You lost that game 13-10. Does anybody remember what the score was after the third? Does anybody remember the score of the second Northeastern game after the third inning? It was 10-0 Northeastern. You beat yourselves that night. You kicked the ball around. The defense you had this year showed up. And it didn't show out. Well, it showed out, just not the way you wanted to. You'd lose that game 13-10. And like I said all year, they didn't give up. They fought because you came back, you scored 10 runs. But you lost 13-10. Game up a 10th spot in the first third of the game. Then you go to UL Lafayette. The University of Louisiana at Lafayette, the directional school. I'll never let them forget that. They beat you. They mushed you. They beat you 7-2. They had 1 error, 2 walks. They struck you out 11 times. But with 2 walks and 2 hit by pitches, 4 free runners, you scored 2 runs. Team not beating themselves, man. And this is kind of where I rounded out going back to try to describe my thoughts on this year from a statistical standpoint to back it up. The last series I really kind of looked at until I got disgusted and saw the pattern. Sacramento State. We all remember that Friday game. We were like, oh, they're back. Bombs away. Jake Brown had his 3 home run game. They beat 15-4. You still struck out 8 times. Sacramento State will come in and beat you on Saturday with Cooper Moore. Now, I wanted to highlight this. Cooper Moore did not lose you that game. He did not lose you that game. Cooper had 1 earned run. 1 earned run, 3 walks. He hit 2, and he had a wild pitch, which I think was a pass ball. But Sacramento State, 2 errors, 7 walks. They struck you out 11 times. Now, we all remember, I believe that was Newt that came in the 8th and gave up the granny to make it 5-4 or 5-3. That game, I'll chalk up that game as bad luck. Because you're going to have games like that. You're going to have bad luck games during the season. And I think this is a bad luck game. Game 3 against Sacramento State, you lost 1-6. Why'd you lose 1-6? Sacramento State didn't beat themselves. They had 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. They did have 2 errors. They only walked you twice. You don't walk guys, you ain't got to strike them out. You don't walk guys, and you let them put it in play, things happen. Play good defense, don't walk guys, things happen. Now, I want to highlight this for that stretch, all right? Before I get into a deeper dive. Case and Evans. I want to talk about Case Evans and William Schmidt because there's a lot of talk going through this time of the year that, Schmitty should be a Friday guy. It shouldn't be Case. And I was thinking, all right, was I just being blinded by my affinity for Case and Evans? Let me go back and check. Against Milwaukee, Case only went 3 1/3. He had 6 hits, gave up 4 runs, had 2 walks and 7 Ks, and he hit a pitch and 19 batters. Look, not his best work. Opening day, sophomore's first Friday start. I'll chalk it up as that. Wasn't his best game. Schmitty on game 3 of that series would go 4 innings, give up 3 hits, 3 runs, a walk, and 2 hit by pitch. So I'll say this: similar numbers. Schmitty had a better weekend. Too easy. Indiana, Case and Evans, 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks. Solid line. You gave up 7 runs to Indiana. Case only gave up 3. Bullpen. Schmidt on game 3 against Milwaukee. He only gave up 3 runs. They scored 7. Bullpen. Milwaukee, Kaysen gave up all 4 runs of that game. Cooper Williams came in, shut guys down. Then Gavin Guidry had the thunderous applause coming into the stadium, which he deserved. Too easy, right? That was a good game. Went over Kaysen against Indiana. Schmitty, one of his best starts of the season. I think his best pitching performance of the season, in my personal opinion, is the Kentucky game. The Saturday, I think it was the first Saturday start he had, and it was the Kentucky game because it wasn't really because of his line. I really liked how Schmitty worked himself out of trouble. He worked himself out of situations with runners on base. That's why I say that was Schmitty's best game. But we can argue that later or another day. Against UCF, Schmitty would throw 5 innings, give up 3 hits, 3 runs, strike out 4, and hit 3. Decent line. You won the game 11-0. He was able to strand guys, and your defense picked him up. That was a game a lot of you may remember. That was when Dardar is in shallow right field making a dive and throw to first one time for the out, and he had an error later on. But he was trying to make web gems out there. Against Dartmouth, Kaysen would go 5 1/3. He'd only give up 2 hits, 2 runs, walk 3, but he had 10 Ks. He did have 4 wild pitches. The wild pitch stat, I think at this part of the season, there's a lot of pass balls instead of wild pitches, in my personal opinion. Schmitty in the game 2 against Dartmouth. So same team again. So it's a good little barometer. The deepest Schmitty went all year, 7 1/3. 4 hits, a wild pitch, 1 hit by a pitch. He had 9 Ks. And 7 1/3, he saw 26. Great line for Schmitty. Line-wise, that's probably his best game of the year. So right now, maybe you could give the race to Schmidt for who should be your ace, right? Maybe so. Sacramento State. I wrote this bombs away. That was a bombs away game. Kaysen 5 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, 9 Ks. Good line. Solid line. Gave up 2 runs. Bullpen gave up 2 more. What you going to do? Against Sacramento State, Schmitty, for the last one I charted, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 3 runs, 8 Ks. So, almost identical line to Kaysen. Gave up 1 more hit, 1 more run, and 1 less K. So, after that is where I think Kaysen goes in against Vanderbilt. He gets hit around a little bit, but he fights. Same thing happened with Schmitty. What failed this team this year, after this 8-game stretch, and starting with this, well, not 8-game stretch, but after the Sacramento State series, was injuries. 1, I'm not making an excuse. It's not an excuse if it's a fact. Injuries plagued this team deeply this year. I have a text from a player. Almost every game, somebody was getting hurt. The injury bug got them bad this year. Bad. We all heard the interview of Matt Moscona, Derek Curiel, and Gavin Guidry talking about injuries. By the way, the ankle thing, I've asked people who were credentialed and tied in people, they didn't know about the ankle. His camp kept that really tight-lipped. So, but when it was posted, his ankle wasn't broken. And that did not slow, I will say this, that did not slow Curiel down to the drastic amount, in my opinion. In my opinion, the drastic amount that slowed down at the beginning of the year, we didn't see the Curiel we saw at the end of the year, was the weight, in my opinion. We can get into talking about whether gaining weight helps improve your power or do you need to gain weight. Discussion another day. My opinion on the matter is this. I think Derek, probably put too much weight on too fast. A broken ankle may have assisted with that, not being able to move as much. maybe that's some of the weight where he gained it. He did look bigger. He was stronger. My comp to Derek Carriel beginning of the year was a young A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez. Clearly, he looked good. I don't think he knew how to swing or take comfortable at bats with that weight yet. Throughout the season, he lost a little weight, like you always do, and it kind of came back around. That's my personal opinion on it when it comes to the injuries. But injuries on his team plagued him. They got beat up for some reason this year when it came to injuries. After the injuries, like there are injuries that you still haven't heard about. You may not hear about them. It's up to them to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. Where else did they fail? Defense. And why does the defense tie into where they failed? I know Jay Johnson misevaluated in the portal. There are players we got out of the portal that I believe Jay Johnson had high regard for. He was high on. We all were. That failed when it came to their position in the field. And for a big reason of that was, I think, injuries. You had a lot of guys moving different places. Your best defender in the field, everybody knows, Stephen Milam. Behind him, Derek Carriel. Behind him, Jake Brown. At this part of the year, Zach York. Zach York, to me, did not lose his starting spot on the field due to his defense. Now, right before he lost a starting spot, did he start having some defensive issues? Yeah, I think he was bringing the plate to the field. You can't do that. So that's when you saw more Mason Braun come in. At this time of the year, if I remember right, York was still hitting over 400, and he was mashing balls, right? You had transfer players come into this year. The only two transfer players I will have how do I put it? How do I want to put this? I'll give some saving grace to is Seth Dardar and Braden Simpson. Seth Dardar because, man, that kid fought. That kid was hurt all year. All year. And he played his heart out. And it was hard for him to play through some of those injuries, especially his ankle from the middle to the end of the year after the Bethune-Cookman game. The only other player I'll give a grace to in the field would be Braden Simpson. Injuries. Now, at the plate, do I give a lot of grace to him? No, he couldn't handle the SEC pitching. His strikeouts killed him. Let's just face the facts. Strikeouts killed him. Other guys, either, in my humble opinion, that means nothing. A, didn't have their head in the game, or B, moved around too much at different positions, trying to fill spots, finding where everybody needed to be. And these guys weren't the guys you could do that with. Point blank, period. I don't think we'll have that issue coming up next year. Just saying. How did you fail on the mound? Bullpen. Lack of development. Not due to Nate Yeske, as we'll get to in a little bit when we talk about some guys in the pros. Not due to Nate Yeske. Just the inability to develop or carry on development, right? I talked about all this year, even with Kaysen. Guys get spinny on the mound. I don't know if it's a Nate Yeske thing. I can't say if it is or isn't, honestly. It seems like when guys are either have a good inning or they get into trouble, they would get spinny. What I mean by spinny, I've explained this before. I'll explain it again. When guys get spinning, instead of being linear to the plate, driving their momentum and their energy directly to the plate and turning through the pitch in a bad way to say it, they would spin through it. They would try to get something extra. They would try to put something extra on their breaking ball. They would spin instead of drive. I think that played Maverick Rizzi and Cooper Williams big time. It plagued Case and Evans. It plagued William Schmidt from time to time. The difference with Case and Evans and William Schmidt was they'd get themselves out of it. They would get themselves out of it. I don't know if a lot of you noticed this year, Nate Yeske didn't take a bunch of mound visits. It wasn't a ton. Didn't take a ton of mound visits. Could be the way he thought his guys would react. Could be a number of things. He wanted these guys to kind of work it out on their own. Also, I think with PitchCom, you kind of have the ability to not have to walk out there if you don't need to. Defense, again, especially at this part of the year. I love Beatty. I love Cerna. Defensive catching was terrible at the beginning of the year till about midway. It got better. All due respect to them. It got a ton better. What could have affected that? Injuries. I remember sitting at one of the last scrimmages, if not the last scrimmage, before the season started, when Beatty took a ball off the knee. Jay grabbed him, took him out. He didn't play anymore. I believe Braden Simpson actually went behind the plate after that. So I'm giving a little bit of leeway there for defensive catching. It was a lot more injuries than I really understood at the time. And that was a big part of it. So why? And with the offense, it's simple. When Jake Brown came down to earth, he was still amazing, even when he had his feet playing on earth and playing like normal baseball. He was still crushing. Derek Carriel started off slow. When he came on good. Stephen Milam, no matter what anybody says, yeah, he was hitting in the low 200s for a little while, but he was still putting bat on ball. Chris Stanfield, injury. One of your best hitters on the team. No, he may not be the biggest powerhouse guy in the country, but he gets the ball and he gets on base. Strikeouts killed you. Strikeouts from Zach York. Strikeouts at the beginning of the year by Aaron Beatty. Strikeouts by Braden Simpson. Strikeouts by Trent Carraway. Strikeouts killed you. Strikeouts by Seth Dardar. Strikeouts killed you. What could have went wrong this year went wrong, period. Murphy's Law was in full effect the entire year. Let's see. Let me see what Robbie and Stan are saying real quick. All right. I feel like that was York's approach the entire season. You'll throw 4 balls before 3 strikes. That bit him. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit. York did that at Grand Valley and got away with it. Never really did just SC pitching and struggled with it. Let's see. That's what I figured. Man's approach is too conservative. I feel like we needed him to bring in runs, and he was concerned with just getting on base. Not a bad thing, just not the role we needed him for. Let's talk about offensive approach. What I've heard, especially after this run, after where I just went over with you when stuff started coming off the tracks. First, let me give you my opinion. My opinion to begin the year, and something I came out here and said out loud. This is one of the most composed teams you have ever had at LSU under Jay Johnson. When it started coming off the rails, they weren't the same composed team as they were. I'll tell you this. Until the injury, one guy had green light first pitch. You can figure out who that is. Approaches at the plate were very managed. Very managed. And look, if that's the way Jay Johnson wants to do things, I trust him. Wholeheartedly. No, Stanley. No. The injury. If Jay wants to manage things like that, he's fine. I trust Jay Johnson with anything baseball. But I personally believe this year he handcuffed the lineup. I can say that. without hating on Jay, I believe he handcuffed the lineup and they weren't able to be as aggressive as they would have liked to have been this season until the end of the year. You look at after, injuries take guys out for the season and you have a lot more young guys and you see a lot more freedom at the plate. Guys started going a lot more first pitch. Guys started, and I'm not talking about swinging for fences. I'm talking like, hey, you can't swing till you go 2-0 or 1-1. Like, these are things I've heard. The injuries were bad. I just can't believe how bad the command was on the mound from the bullpen. I believe after looking at all the stats I've been looking at for a week and rereading them, I've probably looked at these things 4 times. And before I came on today, you can ask Stanley Reed because he texted me. I came home and looked at him again just to verify everything I was reading. Cooper Moore, until the injury, was your best pitcher on your staff, period. I'm happy he's back. Case Evans and William Schmidt had good years. Good years. I think Case Evans did phenomenal in his first Friday starting role experience. We also have to remember he was a shortstop out of high school. A shortstop. This is his second full year as a sole pitcher. Yeah, Case Evans threw in high school. I bet he did. This is the first 2 years he's a sole pitcher in the SEC. I think Case Evans did a damn good job this year. He's going to do even better next year. Your whole weekend rotation returns. So, we put a bow on it. The games I highlighted tonight, and the reason why I didn't go further is we'd be here for 4 hours. Paint the picture of a team who, in the beginning of the year, took advantage of mistakes made by opposing teams. After this stretch, either teams didn't make the mistakes or the players you had in the lineup didn't take advantage of them. It's no surprise who your best hitters on a team for the whole year were from beginning to end. Brown, Curiel, Milam, Beatty, Cerna, and Stanfield. It's no surprise. Steph Dardar would have been one of those guys if it wasn't for injuries. I wish Braden Simpson could have been better at the plate because I think, no offense to John Pearson, I love John. He'd have been a nice option at third, right? Or first base when he took York out of the lineup. But I have to say, I think they got handcuffed. That's why I'm not surprised at what this team ended like this year. It was a continuous circle of beating yourself. That's just what it is. And like Jay said, I forgot to clip this up earlier. I was busy at work. In the post game after the loss to Auburn, Jay came out and said he wants to find guys whose life revolves around baseball, not whose life involves baseball. Let me say that again. He wants to find guys whose life revolves around baseball, not whose life involves baseball. I think he had some transfer portal additions whose life involved baseball, not revolved. And that's just a sheer fact of it. Speaking of the transfer portal, let's just get to that real quick. Transfer portal opens up, I believe, what's today's date? Monday, June 1st. MLB draft is July 12th. Maverick Rizzi has already entered the portal. I'm expecting Cooper Williams to enter the portal, as well as some other names, right? If you look at what could possibly return, you don't need as much from the portal as you may think. Now, it's all up in the air, right? No one, I don't even think the players themselves have a solid answer on what their decision is. I will say this: keep an eye on who sticks around the facility. Ethan Kloss is not at the facility. He's playing summer ball, and he's doing a phenomenal job in summer ball, by the way. Shout out to Ethan Kloss. But pay attention to who you see posting stories and making posts at the facility. It's going to tell you a lot about who's returning. I'm foolishly optimistic on some guys returning. Why am I foolishly optimistic on some guys returning? The 5 for 5 rule coming down from the NCAA could swing some thoughts on who goes and who stays, because you're not losing leverage. John Eads said himself, he talked to Milam, and he does not want to go out this way. Jake Brown bleeds purple and gold. He lives it. He loves it. There could be a possibility that if he sees that 5 for 5, maybe he comes back. Derek Curiel has all the talent in the world. It's going to be a first-round pick. Stamp it in gold. Maybe if he sees Brown and Monster, hey, let's run it back. Let's run it back. Above all else, let's talk about what Marcy Milam said. Get your money up. I believe it was what? Georgia Tech or Florida State, one of those teams, got a $2.5 million donation match opportunity. If they were able to get $2.5 million in matches, they would match it dollar for dollar. So it wasn't really a $2.5 million boost. It was a $5 million boost. Right now, from my understanding, baseball is going to get about $1 million, right under $1 million in rev share money from the university. I think Jay probably needs around 3 to 4 to get everything he wants. Now, Jay's going to have to go out there and fundraise that. Can Jay do it? Yeah. Jay can do it. Not a problem. You have people in the city. This is the funny thing about boosters and the athletic program here at LSU. The old money loves baseball. The old money, the numbers in Skip Burtman's black book, love baseball. The new money loves football. We know why. A lot of new money loves basketball as well, but the old money, the real money, loves baseball. Hopefully we can kind of assuage some of those new money guys to come and help out baseball a little bit, which some of them do already. Not trying to say none of them do. Some of them do already. But Jay Johnson's going to need help in the portal. Now, I believe in Jay. I believe in him to have a top portal class, bar none. Part of it is because it's the purple and gold. It's Alec Box Stadium. It's the powerhouse. It's the program. And guys will give Jay a hometown discount per se, or the Alec Box discount to come and play here. You're going to have some big names enter the portal in NCAA. Earlier, I checked a website. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick so I can get the exact number for you. Where did that thing go? I don't see it. It was like, I think it was 76 players, active players of they can't enter the portal yet because it hasn't happened. But 76 NCAA Division I portal announcements have been made. Expect that number to go up. It's not going to be the football numbers, but expect the number to go up. And there's going to be some big names, I believe, hidden in the portal from what I'm hearing. Don't think Jay isn't legally in the realms of not tampering, talking to who he needs to talk to get those guys on campus. Like I said the other day, the worst nightmare in the world of NCAA baseball is Jay Johnson not having to coach in the postseason. That man's about to go to work. He's going to have a lot of nights drinking orange juice, looking up at that moon. Let's look at some comments real quick before we knock out a couple other statements and get out of here. Casey has a mentality to battle off traffic and bad calls by the umpire. Smitty seems close, but mentality-wise isn't quite there yet. I feel like he let the bad calls and errors get to him some. I've heard that a lot, Stan, and you know my thoughts of you are, Stan. You're my guy. Like, I trust you. I trust your opinion very much. When people talk about mentality on the mound and letting calls and certain things get to them, I think of Griffin Herring in 2023. That year wasn't a phenomenal year for Griffin. It wasn't bad. He had some good games, but Griffin let a lot of bad calls and it wasn't a lot of defensive errors by this team, but just some bad luck get to him a lot. It was enough that, I got worried when Griffin came into the game in Omaha. Now Griffin turned it around in 24 and he had a phenomenal year. I don't think Smitty was at that level with frustration. Did he get frustrated? Yes. I'm not going to say he didn't get frustrated. I don't think it bled over into his performance as much as some people, not saying you are, but other people talking about it have let it kind of say it influenced it. I don't think it was that bad, personally. David Billiot, sorry I'm late, buddy. Been on the phone for the last hour of my drive home. Ain't no problem, buddy. I'm just happy you're home safe. All right. Let's see. Robbie, Ethan has one long ball, like 6 walks, and 5 stolen bases in 3 games. Let me tell you exactly what it is because I have that pulled up right here. Ethan Kloss. He's got on base all 6 times. He has swiped 3 bags in the process. So yeah, he has 3 stolen bases. He's gotten on he's had 6 he's got on base all 6 times. I don't know if he has 6 hits or not. I know he has a couple hits. Do you think Jay goes after another starting pitcher in the portal? It worked so well in the past. So a lot of people are saying put Kaysen back in the bullpen. And I'm not saying you're saying that, Justin. A lot of people are saying put Kaysen back in the bullpen. I think that's a terrible idea. Kaysen has the ability, he has the stuff to be a great starting pitcher in the SEC and your Friday guy, which he's going to be next year. Does he go after a starting pitcher in the portal? Yeah, I believe he's going to go after starting pitching. I believe he's going to go after young starting pitching and let them be bullpen pieces for next year. Why do I say that? A lot of these guys are not going to be SEC guys. They're going to come from the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, other conferences, Conference USA, all these other conferences that's not the SEC. The SEC is a different animal. I think he's going to, because next year, Kaysen's gone after 3. What if this 5-for-5 deal turns into 4-year guys? That would be amazing. But more than likely, William Schmidt, Kaysen Evans, Cooper Moore are going to be gone at the end of next year. You're going to need to replace them. He has starting pitching coming in from recruiting, young guys. I think he also goes and gets some experienced college guys, probably sophomores to come in, be in the bullpen, and be ready to step into a starting role if injuries happen, and then maybe convert to a starting role in the following year. This is no disrespect to Schmidt, Paz, etc., but what Kaysen showed against Auburn was a level of starting pitching we hadn't seen in a few weeks. I keep trying to say this. Everyone forgets the 15 strikeout game against Oklahoma. And earlier I talked about this. Let me find this. Kaysen against Dartmouth. Now I know it's Dartmouth. 5 1/3, 2 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, 10 Ks. I mean, Kaysen has the stuff. People forget about my guy. Forget about him. I believe Jay Johnson is going to go after I got a funny question for you guys. Do you think Mason Braun moves to 3rd? Do you think Mason Braun moves to third? I can't remember if he's left-handed. I think he is left-handed, so that kind of sucks. Is Mason Braun left-handed? No, he's left-handed batter. Don't yell at me about that. He reminds me of a Jacob Berry, maybe, if he isn't left-handed. He became a guaranteed 6-inning guy. We missed that down the stretch. Exactly. The longest outing for Schmidt was 7 1/3. He's a lefty. Dang it. All right. So, nope, he's not moving to third. Forget I said that. I don't like Mason in the outfield. No against him. Nothing against him. I don't like Mason in the outfield. Schmidt had a 7 1/3 inning game, but that's not a typical outing for Schmidt. Said what? Oh, forget. Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I'm stupid. Forgive me. All right. I think they get a third baseman in the portal. I think they're going to have to. Unfortunately, I think they're going to have to. Whether or not my worst case scenario happens or not, Stan, I think they get a third baseman out of the portal anyway. I think you got to get a first baseman out of the portal, another one. I think he's got to go get a catcher out of the portal. You got to get some outfield, and you got to get bullpen. You don't have as much to refill, hopefully. Just say that. Yes, they need big bats. And there's one in Arizona State who I really hope and pray enters the portal. Like, that's my, white whale right now for Jay. Like, go get that kid Harrison, man. But you got a couple other good kids who are showing up well. All right. Let's transfer. Let's talk about this for a minute. Stan, I'm building a portal wish list, just waiting for the rest of the guys to enter in June. I'm going to have to send you that that website I found so you can see everybody that's already announced they're entering the portal. Landon Harrison Jr. is on my wish list. That's number one. But Arizona State may pay him handsomely. I think they already do. Let's talk about a little bit of football and what's going on around that. I know I'm over my hour time already. It gets me. All right. You had the SEC spring meeting in Destin this week. Here's the full scope or the full story on that. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. Nothing will change. The only thing that happened was you have a bill being brought up with Ted Cruz and what's that woman's name? Can't remember her name. Trying to bring a united standard across college athletics. Newsflash, it's not going to pass. They had things like the 5 for 5 in there. They had things like a one-time free transfer. They also had things like pooling money all together, which SEC and Big Ten do not want to do. And with a lot of that stuff coming up, the SEC made a statement, said, we'll just break away and do our own thing. That's basically what happened there. They had the Lane Kiffin rule come up, which is not going to be possible because you got to move transfer portal to a different time, and you can't do that because players have to be enrolled in university transfer to by start of semester. Now, we all saw Jordan Seed and other guys. We had guys leave one school and go to another after enrolling in classes. Ole Miss. So those rules are bendable, but I also don't believe that can truly, because you'd have to wait till a summer period for a transfer portal. Coaches aren't going to want to do that. Another reason they want to move the calendar is because coaches want their time off. They want to have their vacations. They want to have their golf trips. I don't blame them. It's a very busy job, but they're not going to change the schedule. It's going to be really hard to do. The 2014 playoff came up for discussion, either 16 or 2014 playoff. It came out that the SEC, when they decided to go to 9 conference games, it was kind of believed that they were going to have to go to a 16-game playoff format after doing that. And then after the SEC went to 9 games, there was no more talk of a 16-game playoff. They were talking about a 2014 playoff. Coaches like John Summerall are very heavily they're very much in favor of a 2014 playoff. It's funny also, John Summerall's not getting any heat for this. After his Tulane team made the playoff, he goes to Florida and says, you know what? Group of 6 teams really shouldn't make at-large bids into the playoff or have automatic qualifiers. That wasn't really talked about. John Summerall himself said, no, group of 6 teams shouldn't have automatic qualifiers. It's really not the same football between the group of 6 and the Power 4, especially the SEC. He wasn't saying that when he was at Tulane. I get it. I know he was at Tulane. I get it. But John Summerall also got in the news because I honestly don't think he was taking a shot at Lane Kiffin when he said this, but he said that if Tulane would have told him he can't coach the playoff, he wouldn't have left Tulane. He's lying. He's lying. If he was so focused on a championship run, John Summerall wouldn't have had a meeting with Ole Miss in New Orleans, in Slidell, or no, in Hammond, at a small airport off of Airport Road, off of 190. If you drive past it, it says Top Gun on the side of the building. That's not the airport. That's the a school right there, like a flight school or something. John Summerall's lying. He's trying to make himself look better in the press. It just doesn't work for me, guy. I get it. You cared about Tulane, and, you want to say, hey, if Tulane – he also said if Tulane said you can't coach you just walked out. I don't believe that for a minute either. Now, I do believe Tulane did the right thing, and they said, no, you started this. We won't let you finish it. But if Tulane would have told John Summerall, you can't coach the playoff if you're going to take another job, he would not be coaching at Tulane this year. I promise you that. Speaking of other interviews, speaking of tampering, it came out, we talked about with John Eads, Pete Golding, and, Ole Miss is being investigated by the NCAA for tampering. And Pete Golding has basically come out and said, hey, you hit me, I'm letting all the dirty laundry out. It's also been reported that Ole Miss is very cooperative in giving the NCAA information on other tampering charges on other coaches and other schools. Pete Golding also said that he said he wasn't going to admit to doing anything wrong, but not saying they didn't do anything wrong, and that they had to go and get Luke Farrelly because Lane Kiffin took TJ Daugherty. That doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I've heard other shows talk about the Frank Wilson connection with guys who left LSU and went with Frank Wilson to Ole Miss. And what I really don't understand about that statement by Pete Golding is he said that TJ Daugherty had been tampered with all 3 years he was at Ole Miss. Or maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember if he's a junior or senior. He was tampered with every year he was at Ole Miss. If you're a defensive coordinator, now the head coach, and one of your best defensive players, your linebacker, has been tampered with every year he's been at your program, wouldn't you recruit or go get other linebackers to help fill a need that you feel may be there because he's being tampered with? Or do you do what Pete Golding does and you wait till he leaves and you go tamper with another school because, they did it to me so I could do it to you? Pitiful. Pitiful. in my opinion. The other news, not to get political, blah 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 blah. The NAACP came out, made a statement saying no African American or black athletes should play at certain SEC schools, Ole Miss and LSU being two of them, until voting right bills are passed in each state. Lane Kiffin was asked about it, and he said no comment. He did the right thing. Will this come to pass? I personally don't believe so. I don't believe any athlete is going to say no to NIL deals, especially high recruits, just because of the NAACP. I firmly believe that, especially at LSU and in Baton Rouge, this is not a program or an area that is very racist. Now, am I speaking for every individual in the city? No, there are idiots amongst us all. But the good ones far outweigh the bad. And as far as Ole Miss, I can only go off of what Lane Kiffin told me and former running backs talked about and videos showing actions on campus. Anyways. Oh, another thing. I talked about the 2014 playoff. It's not going to happen. In my personal opinion, SEC is going to fight back on it because they went to a 9-game schedule and kind of got routed in that. And they don't want 24 teams. And ESPN, who LSU and the SEC have a media rights deal through, do not want 24 games because then they would have to have it would open up media rights deals for other networks. Example, Fox, who has a media rights deal with the Big Ten, meaning the ESPN would not want to have a semifinal game on ESPN at 7 p.m. and a semifinal game at 7 p.m. on Fox, which would happen. So it's going to be a 12-team playoff. To me, it's the best case scenario. I personally liked it better when it was 4 teams. I thought the max you should go to was 8. 16 to 24 teams, just to me, waters down a regular season. It's if you ever go look back at any year when you look at the top 25, the guys from 15 back really shouldn't be contenders. I'm sorry. So 2014 playoff should not be a thing. I don't think a 16-team playoff team should be a thing. That's my 2 cents. We have any more questions in the chat? Let's see. I don't see any. All right. Well, hope y'all enjoyed tonight's episode. I hope y'all don't think I'm too crazy for my thoughts of not being totally disappointed in this team this year. I think it is. It was just what it was. Murphy's Law bit you at every turn. Injuries were a big hindrance. Development was a big hindrance. But my personal opinion going forward is you now have a determined, not saying he wasn't determined, you now have a fueled Jay Johnson who doesn't want this to happen again. He doesn't like the taste in his mouth right now. He said it himself. He's not going to watch much of the College World Series or the postseason because he just can't take it. That man has all the time in the world for the transfer portal and recruiting. Expect some high school recruits to flip, most likely. LSU will be back to their regularly scheduled program in 2027. Don't worry about it. This sucks, but if it's what we need to have a better year next year, I'll take it. Remember, please do me a favor. I'm terrible at doing this. Do I think Florida wins it all? I'll be honest with you, Stan. I haven't looked too much at the bracket. Why? Like Jay Johnson, I don't want to see it right now. I took a break from college baseball. I took a break from college baseball this last weekend. One, to spend time with my family, because David can attest to this. When you have a family and you're doing this, it takes a lot of time and a lot of focus away from your kids and your wife. And I wanted to kind of reshape that and get more in more in line with that for them. Who do I think wins the College World Series? I go Auburn. Florida has the pitching to get themselves. It could be, and let me just bring the bracket up real quick. I'm sorry, just give me a second. I didn't even go over Tigers and the pros. Let's talk about that real quick. Gage Jump made his major league debut the other night. I posted about it. His first batter faced was a 3-pitch strikeout, a beautiful little slide piece away on Crawford. The rest of the game wouldn't be so kind to old Gage. Kind of bit him, but still, I think a great first debut outing for Gage Jump. Not great, but good. The stuff looked great. He recorded the loss in the 4-1 loss to the Mariners, but I think it was too bad. He did have some command issues coming up from AAA to there, but his last 2 outings were amazing. And they kind of thought he would follow that up. But I can't find his box score right now. But congratulations, Gage Jump, for getting where he's gotten. He deserves it. He looked great in that first inning. I'm not going to get into all the stats. I'll say this. Anthony Einson and Cade Anderson both have sub 1 ERAs at this point in minor league season. Get ready. I was on X with some guys the other night while I was watching the Gage Jump start, kind of talking this and that, back and forth, talking with Top Fan Rivalry, Mr. Bill Perkins, the podcast I was on last week. If you didn't check it out, go check it out. It was a fun little show. A bunch of people believe Cade could be up to the bigs by the end of this year. I am still... One guy told me there isn't any place for him. There isn't an open spot with Seattle at the moment. I think that's a great thing for Cade not to get to the show this year. Not that I don't want him there. I like to see him have a year in AA, start off in AA next year, move up to AAA early on in spring training. Just give the guy some time, a little more time to develop. It's just going to make him a better pitcher. Anthony Einson was talking about him as well with a guy who's a Red Sox fan. My question was, are they possibly getting Ant ready for a middle relief closing role? Why? He hasn't been going deep into games. 3-4 innings max. He hasn't been putting a ton of pitches on his arm. Part of me also thinks that they had a lot of pitches on his arm last year coming out of college, so they're probably protecting him a little bit, which is a good thing. The Red Sox do a good job at that, taking care of young guys. So, but for them to have sub 1 ERAs is amazing at this part of the year. Ethan Fry is still hammering the ball. Castillo. I was trying to think of the name, Stan. It was Castillo. I didn't want to say something and be just totally off the wall. Castillo's been having some rough starts. I wouldn't put Cade for Castillo right now, but it would be a possibility that could happen. All right, let me look at the bracket real quick so I need to go back and comment on David's post. If you haven't done it yet, I know Go Deep Dive and David Billiard are giving away a prize for bracket predictions. Who's your top 8? And I'm not going to speak for David on this because I don't know the full rules to it. I still need to go put my 8 in the bracket. I probably need to do that tonight. So, all right, let me look at something. Are they on the same side of the bracket? I think they are. Oop, are they? Are they on the same side of the bracket? Yeah. Babin, he thought Florida would change it to Georgia Tech because he hates Florida. I understand it, buddy. Georgia Tech's a mauler, too. They're on the same side of the bracket. Okay. It's going to put a little hindrance in my plans. I'll say this. My Omaha 8 will be Auburn, Arizona State. Well, no. Let's see. It'll be Auburn. It'll be Auburn, North Carolina, Florida, and West Virginia. West Virginia. Then you have Georgia Tech. Too easy. I think you'll have on this side of the bracket. I'm going to go Alabama. This side of the bracket, I go with Texas and Georgia. So Georgia, Auburn, I believe I said UNC, Texas, Bama, Florida, West Virginia, Georgia Tech. And I think it is a Georgia Tech semifinal, or you get it. I think your final two teams in the dance playing will be Auburn and Georgia Tech. And I have Auburn winning. Too easy. Put money on it. I'm broke. I can't do that. All right. So that's all we have tonight, guys. Hope y'all had a good time. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. I know I did. And I'll talk to y'all soon. Like I said, Bit to Click prizes are out in the mail. I'm trying to think of anything. It's weird not having Pit to Click to talk about. It's weird. I keep saying like, oh, I gotta do a Pit to Click giveaway. I don't have Pit to Click to talk about. I have nothing going on. I have other stuff, but I probably have no reason to give stuff away. The Bible verse before we get out of here tonight is going to be Job 22:21. Acquaint yourself with him now and be at peace. By it, good will come to you. To me, that just means as long as you just trust in Christ, everything will work out. Even if something bad happens, is in his plan for it to work out good for you. Just trust in that. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy some postseason baseball. Enjoy time with your family, because you don't have to be in front of the TV as much watching baseball right now. Remember, God loves you. All he wants you to do is love him back. And I'll see y'all either Monday or Tuesday. I might swap to Tuesday. We also have a special guest next week that you guys will be happy to hear from. I'll probably put the post out about 24 hours, about 24, prior to the episode, let y'all know who it is. But until then, God loves you. All he wants to do is love him back. God loves you. I love you. Have a great weekend. God bless. Go Tigers. And I'll see you guys then.